4 years ago, in the middle of my second maternity leave, I quit my job and I went from employee to CEO. Now, whilst it was a really tough decision, the hardest part is actually the mindset. The mindset of going from someone who's completing tasks, has a guaranteed paycheck. Even if you are sick for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, you're still going to get paid that at the end of that month. Going from that mindset to a mindset of the effort that I make is directly related to the output that I'm going to have in the end. Going from that to that was really difficult. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 mindset shifts that really helped me go from being an employee to being a founder of 2 successful businesses. The first is your thinking. You need to shift from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So really thinking about how much effort you put in, how much value that you have in your business. And you need to really take ownership of your own work because it is directly correlated to your success in the long term. You also need to constantly be thinking about how can I add value? How can I take small calculated risks? Because when you're working as an employee, you're used to completing tasks that someone else has set to you. So for example, I was working within a university and teaching. I know my timetable. I know what I need to do. There isn't much flexibility in how much more I can do. But when you now found your own business and you're now your own CEO, you have the whole day to yourself. You need to figure out what are the tasks that I need to do, what are the deadlines, what are the goals that I need to have to be able to be successful in the long term. And that is really difficult. The second is you need to adopt a long-term growth mindset. So you're thinking about the 3 or 4 generations to come. You're thinking about building generational wealth or building generational success. You're not just thinking about the paycheck at the end of the month or the meeting that you have on Friday that your boss is going to ask you about. You're thinking more long term. So setting those really kind of calculated goals that allow you to get here by the end of the year, and then there by the end of 5 years, and then here by the end of 10 years. And because it's your baby, it's your business, you can really put your own stamp on that. You also need to really adopt a patience mindset as well. So really thinking about, look, I'm starting from the bottom. I'm starting from square one. Things right now might not be amazing, but in 10 years time, in 5 years time, and even in 2 years time, you could be somewhere that you have never even imagined. The third is seeing yourself as a valuable asset. When you're working as an employee, you know that you got the job because you have X, Y, and Z qualifications. And yes, you're valuable, but you're valuable only to a certain limit, right? You can only do a certain amount of things that leads to a certain outcome, right? So you're one in many. Whereas when you're a CEO, you have the skill to be able to do whatever it is that you desire. So you're taking the skill, your experience, whatever it is that you want to build, and you're allowing your value, the value in that, to develop anything that you desire. And this is where you need to really build your own personal brand, because if you want to be a founder or a successful CEO, people have to trust you. When they see a name like Apple or Microsoft or Windows, they trust that name, right? Because it's something that they're used to seeing. Whereas now you are coming and you're saying, right, I'm Amina and this is my business. Why should they trust you? And this is where you need to think of yourself as all the skills you have. You are valuable. Post about what you do online. Allow yourself to become a brand online, and people will trust you, and it allows you to build and grow your business wider than if you were just kind of one peg in and amongst a million. The fourth is that you need to stop thinking about trading your time for money and instead building scalable income. So thinking a bit about passive income. Typically when you're in a job, you're doing a task and it's leading to income at the end of the month. So you're directly swapping your time for money. That's absolutely fine. When you're a CEO, when you're an entrepreneur, you need to think about how can I scale so I'm no longer needed, or I'm needed less and less, or I'm building a product that is able to generate passive income, which means making money in your sleep, essentially. So when you're asleep, you're making money. So for example, if you look at maybe one of the businesses that I have with the Page Doctor, I have people that do edits. They are my editors, they are consultants. They are doing edits whilst I'm asleep. So technically, things are still running. The templates that I have, all the templates that I've developed, people are buying them at all hours of the day. So when I wake up, I'm seeing, okay, I've made a £50 sale, I've made a £100 sale, I've made a £1,000 sale, and that's just happened whilst I'm asleep. And that is a mindset that has come because I have changed from being an employee to thinking more about, okay, how can I stop swapping my time and thinking about my time as more valuable, and making products and thinking about services that I can provide that allow me to have a bit more of a wider range in terms of income. If you want to scale your business, you need to think like this because it allows you to work smarter and not harder. Otherwise, you're going to just be a slave to yourself. There's no point of leaving employment and then just being really depressed or really overworked or overwhelmed because you have your own business and you haven't been able to balance that kind of passive side of things and finding value and building services that can work for you, than if you have to directly swap time with money. The fifth is that you have to embrace discomfort and uncertainty. This is such a big one, and at first it really hit me because I was so used to having my income from work. I made X amount every single month. Whether I did what I had to do or didn't, I still made that money. And on top of it, I was making money from my side businesses. At the time, I had the Page Doctor, I had my YouTube channel. So like, it was really good. I had what I was happy with from work, and then I had even more that I could play with. So that was amazing. As soon as I left my job, now that extra is now my main, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and it really does get quite stressful at times because you think, okay, this month I made 1,000. That's not much. Next month I've made 10,000. Okay, that's better. What's happening the month after? There's no certainty, and I think that's something that can be quite difficult at the beginning when you're still building up. But now, 4 years in, I can say quite confidently how much I'll make per month, or the average per month, or how much I'm growing per year. So it gets better as time goes along. But in the beginning, when you've left employment, it can be really difficult because you just don't know what's coming into your bank account every single month, and that can cause a lot of people to quit just because of that uncertainty. They want that certainty, which is why it's better to quit at a point where you have some savings, you maybe have a mortgage, so you've got that like security in terms of like housing, you know that you can cover your bills, your side projects are making enough for you to cover what you were making at work. Those are all things that I thought about before I quit. And if I have to go back to work, like, it's not a big deal, I will. The thing about being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, is you have to be resilient and you have to be willing to take these risks. If I hadn't taken a risk of leaving my job, I would have been in my job, would have been fine, I would have been happy, but I would have been stuck in that job with a limit, with a cap, and not have been able to make the moves that I have made here in the UAE and, you know, leaving the UK, and like all the things that I've been doing in the last sort of 6 to 12 months wouldn't have happened if I hadn't taken that risk. So it's really important to kind of think about it in that way. The sixth is that you want to shift from being a consumer to a creator. So any CEO, any founder is a creator of something, a creator of a business, a creator of a product, a service, something that people are going to want, right? Whereas when you're working in a job, you are just a consumer. You're someone who's sitting down doing the thing, and for the most part outside of work, you're just consuming whatever's out there. Now that I am like my own founder, when I'm watching YouTube, when I'm looking at other people online, I'm thinking, oh, that's really interesting, that's really good, maybe I can do something similar. I'm constantly thinking about how I can create, and sometimes it does take the fun out of things because I'm outside and I'm like, oh, let me film what I'm doing because I want to post it. It can be a little bit too much at times, but it definitely is a mindset shift that you need to take in the beginning, especially where you're constantly thinking about how can I create, what can I provide, what kind of services are there not at the moment where I can kind of build up. As I mentioned earlier, you need to develop your own personal brand. So you need to position yourself as an expert in your niche or your area. And this is where the whole creating and being a creator is really important. And I know it isn't for everyone. I'm not saying to post like private pictures of your family or things that you do. You don't have to post anything like that. Just get onto LinkedIn, start talking about your journey, start talking about what it is you're developing, what it is you're doing, why you're the expert at this, kind of post a few think pieces about the topic in your, in your subject area or in your kind of a business area. get those people that are following you, get people that are seeing you as the expert in that area. And this is something that I really love to do. I've recently founded a company called Waves, and we like to help people make waves in their content. And one of the things that we do is we really look at people's personal brand. If you are a founder, you're trying to get VC funding, you're trying to get people to trust you and believe in you and buy your product, they're looking at you first. They're saying, what does this person offer? What can this person do? What skills do they have? And when we were raising funding for the Page Doctor, which we didn't go ahead with in the end, thank God, one of the most common comments that we got was that you are a great founder, like we believe in you. And that is really, really important. They want to see that you have a strong personal brand, which is why you have to think more as a creator than a consumer. And the last one is that you have to really think more in terms of relationships and not just transactions. Thinking about building relationships with people, networking essentially, but it doesn't have to be so formal. When you're thinking about building a brand, when you're thinking about becoming a CEO, being a founder of something, you have to have a good support network around you. People that believe in you, people that want to help you or work with you or mentor you. And to be able to do this, you have to build relationships. It's also really helpful because you're able to say, oh, let me learn from X person who's done this 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 years ago. I can then build a relationship with them so I'm able to learn about their journey, their mistakes. And this is where I really like podcasts, because I think podcasts have really given us access to people who we normally wouldn't have access to. Usually you'd have to read their book if they publish, or, you know, like listen to maybe a radio station or something like old school. You never had this much access to founders and CEOs, but now we do. And I'm constantly listening to their stories because it really gives me that understanding of how they built their businesses. But if you can do that in real life and build those relationships in real life, it's even better. And you also want to build relationships in terms of your community. So remember what I said earlier about building a brand and having your personal brand and making sure that people can trust you. It's also about building relationships. So whilst you may not know each other, they know you, they're getting to know you. You're showing your audience a certain side of you. And so now you're building that relationship. So when you launch your product, or when you're trying to scale, or when you're trying to raise, or even just get some feedback, you have that relationship with people that they're able to say, look, I trust this person. I've seen this person do X, Y, and Z. And so building that relationship, whether it be parasocial or whether it be in real life, it's still a relationship that you're building, and it's really important to take you from just thinking like an employee and just one part of a big puzzle to you are the main parts. This is really my playbook for how I managed to get myself out of the employee mindset. And now thinking about having to go back into employment is actually really scary if I ever have to, because I just have so much of that growth mindset that I don't think I can be in such a fixed kind of dictative environment anymore, and that's a little bit of a danger of leaving your 9 to 5. But I hope you found this helpful. If you are thinking about leaving your 9 to 5, you're thinking about founding a business or kind of the steps around it, then please feel free to let me know, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Okay, bye.